Hi everyone, so today I'm going to make some pickled eggs, and this video is actually kind of inspired by a recent interview that we did on our podcast with Sandor Katz, who talked with us about fermentation and pickling, and so I'm going to use this opportunity to make some pickled eggs. Now this recipe is pretty general, and as you can see here, I've taken the liberty of pickling jalapenos as well as tomatillos inside of the same jar. Now this recipe is really simple and it's completely applicable to whatever you want. So let's get into it. But before we do, I just want to say for those who are interested in the goings on in this channel, please stick around after the video's over for some announcements. Okay, so now let's really get into it. So the first thing that we need to do when making some pickled eggs is actually to hard boil some eggs. Now, this to me has to be the hardest part. If you want to get around this by buying some pre-boiled eggs, I ain't gonna judge you. For those who want to make their own hard-boiled eggs, let me show you my method for doing that. So all we need to do is place some eggs in the bottom of a pot and layer them as evenly as possible. You can see here that I had quite a few, so they had to stack up in kind of 2 rows. From here, we need to add some water to cover the eggs just about 1 inch or about 2 centimeters above the topmost egg. Next, we're going to turn on the heat and bring this up to a boil. And we're just going to sit there and watch this. And the second that it gets up to a boil, we're going to pull this off the heat. We're going to cover it and we're going to set a timer for 14 minutes. And this should give us perfect hard-boiled eggs. So while the eggs are cooking for those 14 minutes, we can actually move on to getting the other ingredients ready for our pickling. Now I say other ingredients, but it's actually up to you what else you want to put in with your pickled eggs. I am choosing to add jalapenos and tomatillos, but you could also add beets or onions, or also feel free not to add anything else at all if you don't want. So now, for my specific ingredients, I'm going to start with the jalapeno, and I'm just going to slice these into rings, and then once that's done, we can move on. Next, I have the tomatillos, and I'm going to cut these into quarters. And the reason I'm going with pickled tomatillos is because I've heard they make a really great Bloody Mary garnish, but I also kind of wanted a nice salsa verde feel with these pickled eggs. Once everything's chopped up and our 14 minutes are over, we can now prepare the eggs. So the first thing that we're going to do is drain the warm water and then try to rinse these a little bit under cool water to cool them down a little bit. You can also add some ice cubes if you want. Supposedly this will help with the peeling process, but it may just be a load of bunk. So speaking of peeling, once they're sufficiently cool, we can actually begin to peel them. Now this is the part that I really am terrible at. There are some videos out there on how to peel eggs easily and quickly, but unfortunately this is not one of those videos. After way too long, I was able to peel all the eggs, and this is them now. Now we can move on to an optional step, which is to carefully poke the eggs with a knife to allow the brine to get into the eggs easier, making sure that the eggs can kind of, have the flavor all the way through. You can also use a toothpick to go through the center of the egg, but I'm just using a knife here. And again, this is optional. Once we have everything ready on this side, we can actually start to pack stuff into the jars. How we're gonna do this is we're gonna layer them. So we're gonna put some eggs in, we're gonna put some of our other ingredients in, and we kind of wanna just layer between eggs and other ingredients. Just keep layering them until you've basically used all your ingredients. Once our jars are all packed, the next thing that we need to do is actually create our pickling brine. So the next thing we need to do is actually gather our spices for the pickling brine. This is called pickling spice. And this will give the pickled eggs their characteristic flavor. And really, these amounts don't need to be exact. So the first thing that we need for our pickling spice is about 2 teaspoons of coriander seeds. I decided to add a few bird's eye chili just to give it a little bit of spice, but this is optional. Roughly 1 tablespoon of mustard seeds, so quite a bit. 10 to 12 cloves, a 2-inch piece of cinnamon stick that's kind of broken up, 2 bay leaves that I've crumbled up a little bit, and some barely cracked pepper, just a smidge of that. Once we have our pickling spices there, we'll just set them to the side for right now, and then move on to the actual liquid part of the brine. Now for this we need about 2 cups of water and 1 liter of a neutral vinegar. Something like distilled vinegar works perfectly. We're going to start heating this up and we can start putting the other ingredients into the brine. So first off we need 2 teaspoons of salt, about 1 teaspoon of sugar. We can add our pickling spice, and also I tried to be a little creative and I wanted to give my eggs a little bit more of a green color, so I thought it would be cool to add spinach. In the end, I don't know if it really works so well, so maybe you could just skip this step. And so we're just gonna heat this up until it comes to a rolling boil. Now, once it does come up to a rolling boil, it's best to perform this next step in a sink for the exact reason that you're about to see. Carefully pour the hot vinegar mixture into the jars, making sure they entirely cover the contents within the jars. For this reason, it's better to make a little bit too much brine than too little. And as you can see, I've managed to spill all over my counter, and for this reason, as I said, it's best to do this in a sink and probably away from small children and animals. Once these jars are filled with our hot brine, we're essentially done, except for we need to wait. So we want to seal them up and kind of admire these buttes, let these bad boys chill for about a week in the fridge, and after that we'll have some pickled eggs. Now I've heard that they should last up to about a month in the fridge, but unfortunately pickled eggs never last that long around me. So that's it for the pickled eggs. And now quickly I just want to talk about the announcements. Announcement number 1 is that you may have noticed these videos are coming out a lot slower than usual. That's because I'm really knee-deep in the thesis writing process right now, and so for the foreseeable future, these videos will be coming out a lot slower than usual. Now for the next announcement, some of you may have noticed that Q-Dragon and I have been releasing a podcast on this channel called Brainstorm Kitchen. And the question is, should I keep posting these podcasts on this channel, or should I post it to a separate channel? I'm really curious about what your guys' take is on it, so if you could do me a favor and post in the comments your feelings towards the podcast, if I should keep posting on this channel, or if I should move it to a dedicated channel, please let me know. If you do follow the podcast, please let us know what you would like to see, what you enjoy, and what we can do to make it better. So thank you for watching. Alright, bye.